Hi, Sipa. Can you hear me? Hello? 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 Is it clear? Before we start, maybe let's wait for 2 to 3 minutes. Maybe others will join as well before we have before we start our session. But prepare your collab in case. Okay, okay, sure. No problem. So while we are waiting for the others, do you have any questions or topic, specific part of the conditional statements that you want to clarify? But later on, we will have a recapitulation of things that we have discussed the last time. It's okay. Today, we have a lot of time to practice. So we will focus on conditional statements, and I will try to find if we have any practices about the conditional statements that I can assign to you after the practices that we will perform today. We won't have we will have a lecture today, but our instructor will be late because he is a host. I'm not sure if he is the host or the speaker on the webinar on our company, Skillspire. But he will join later. It's just that while he is not around, we will use the time to practice. So maybe it's safe to start, right? So it's already 9 minutes past our time. So let me share my screen and let's start. I will just open my other device so that I can see your chat. Okay. So the last time we have covered a lot of practices, right? About first on the dictionaries. We also have practices about the string, not string, but generally slicing of strings, slicing of lists, slicing of tuples that we did not perform since we focused on the data structures, specifically on dictionaries. And we have found that dictionaries basically has three parts, or no, two parts, the keys and the values. And the ways we can add items and add items, update the values, and deleting the values, and what happens whenever there are keys that are the same. Like if there are two keys, the other key or the value of the first key is being overwritten by the value of the second key. And that's how we also update the values of the dictionary. So before our meeting ended the last time, we also covered some of the fundamentals of conditional statements. If you can still remember that And remember that conditional statements, its backbone, or we can say its skeleton, is a Boolean. So the conditions are being classified as true or false, either true or false. We can also combine statements, we can also combine conditions using the and and using the or. If you use and, all of the all of the what they call this, all of the conditions must be satisfied. On the other hand, if you use or, at least one of the conditions must be satisfied. So it is here. Where is it? So if you are using or as the logical operator, so at least one condition must be true. But if you are using and, it is more restrictive, wherein all of the values of this should be true. Here is Grace. Hello, Grace. Welcome to the meeting.
Hello, sorry I'm late.
It's okay. So we just started on the and reviewing of the topics that we have covered the last time. Then the last time we have covered some of the practices in the dictionaries. We have reviewed the keys and the values, how we update, how we add new key value pairs, how we can access them, how we can delete them. And before the meeting ended the last time, we have reviewed the fundamentals of the conditional statements. And on the conditional statements, just like what I said a while ago, if we will see it, if we will analyze it, it is just a combination of true or false. That if a certain condition is true, the chunk of code below it will be executed. And we can have multiple conditional statements. We can have multiple conditions that is connected by either and or. If the conditions are connected by and, therefore all of the conditions must be satisfied in order for the code under the if statement to run. On the other hand, we also have the or, in which we only need one true, or we only need at least one condition be satisfied in order for the code to be executed. We also have the operator not, wherein if the value of the condition is true, but if there is a not at the beginning, the value of that condition will be flipped. From true, it will be false. Okay. So today, while we are waiting for our instructor, we will have additional practices about the conditional statements in order for us to fully understand its structure. So reviewing its structure before we actually proceed to the practices. Okay. The if statement, it has two parts in which we know it, the condition, and then under it, the code to be executed. This part, we know that it is dependent on this line because of this uh, space or white. I don't know if this is the thing that is called white space or the tab, in which it means that this code to be executed is dependent to this part, to this line. If this condition was met, therefore that is the only time that this code to be executed will run. For example, like this, if 3 is less than 4, if the value of that is true, it this part will run. Okay. We also have parts in which if the value is false, the line under it will not run. It will not be executed if the value is false. We also have and or. We have discussed that. What else? Nested if statements, that is important to learn, important to have a background on this, but it is not commonly used because as per our instructor, this is prone to a lot of errors. That's why if else statement is the thing that is recommended. So if else statement is used if you have two choices, if elif and then else is used if you have more than two choices. The elif, so we will see it here. If elif else statement, the elif stands for else if, indicating that if the previous condition fails, try this one. So the structure looks like this: if and then condition. If this is true, this code will be executed. If this is false, this part will be skipped, and then elif, this condition will be tested. Either it is true or false. If that is true, this part will be executed. Otherwise, if these two conditions under the if and under the elif both are false or both failed to be executed, else is the last line of defense, wherein if all of the conditions at the top are not met, this part will be executed. Okay? And you can add as many elif as you want. And trivia is you can drop the else and use the elif instead at the last part. So if here the structure is if, elif, and then else. But the truth of the matter is you can write it as if, elif, followed by another elif. However, the difference is on the elif, you need to specify again the condition, the specific condition. The else, on the other hand, you don't need to specify anything. Else and then colon is the only thing that you would see at the last line. There is, wait, where is that? We also have some practice. It is either true or false. If, elif, and else statement can only handle three outcomes. And based on what I said earlier, if you have more than two or multiple statements or multiple outcomes, multiple routes, multiple choices, as long as there are many choices, uh, elif can be added. So the answer on this is false. You can have multiple elif blocks, so it can handle many outcomes. Did you practice this one the last time? Wait, diba? What would be the result of this code? Have you reached this part the last time, Grace and Nasliba, with our instructor, or not yet?
No, I'm not able to understand this question. Well, kind of, halfway.
Okay, what would be the result of this code? Okay, let's try to break this down. Okay, num1, initially it is 10. Num2, initially it is 20. And result, initially, is 4,000. Now we have an if-else statement at the bottom. It says, it follows that if num1 is greater than 50, or not num2 less than or equal to 5, do this. If this condition, so as you can see, we have or at the middle, right? So, and let me ask you a question. How many conditions do we have here under the if statement on this line alone? How many conditions do we have? Okay, 2.
2.
Okay. Condition 1, what it is? Num1 is greater than 50. Is it true or false? Num1 is 10. Now, this condition says num1 is greater than 50. So, false. Okay. Take note that this part is false. And now we have an OR. So, what is the thing about the OR? At least one condition must be true. If you have two conditions, so at least one of these must be true in order for this code to be executed. So this is false, followed by an OR, and let us assess what would be the value of this. Num2 less than or equal to 5. Is that true? Num2 is less than or equal to 5. Take note that num2 is 20. Is it less than or equal to 5? 20.
No.
No. So this part is false. However, you have a not at the front. Therefore, this whole statement will be a true. Do you follow that?
Will be a what?
That will be a true. Okay. So neglect first the not. Or I think it's better if I will type it on the column so that we can see the structure. So num1 is 10. Num2 is 20. So these are initial values. So do you still remember what is the term used for this part when you are assigning initial values?
Initialization or something?
Yes, initialization.
Initiation. Initiation.
So not is confusing. Okay, let's try to make it simpler. Num1 is greater than 50. Oops. And then not num2 is it less than equal to 5. Do this. Result is equal to num1 times num2. And then the other one is else. In case that this chunk of code did not executed because this part was not satisfied, you will add. Instead of multiplying them, we will add them. So that's the code that we have. 2. Okay. So initially, num1 is 10. Num2 is 20. Result is 4,000. What's the value of this? So we know the answer. Num1 is 10. Num1 is greater than 50. Is it true or false? So you said a while ago, this part is false. This part is false. Okay, proceeding to this part. Do not entertain for now. Do not entertain the not. Let's focus on this part. Okay, let me ask you a question. Is this part true or false?
False.
Num2. So that is a false. This alone is a false. Okay, that is a false. However, you have not. So not false. Okay, not false. Therefore, that is a true. So it flips the value or the Boolean value of this condition. This is a false. However, there is a not. Therefore, that is a true. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So in case that it looks like this, let's say like this. Num2 is greater than or equal to 5. Now the value of this is true because 20 is greater than 5. So that alone is true. But you have a not. Therefore, that will be a false. So you will just flip the value. At the beginning, you will not entertain the not. you will focus on the condition itself. And then after you figure it out if that is a true or a false, you will flip it because of the NOT. Is that clear?
Mm-hmm.
Hasiba, do you get that part? That if the value of the condition is true, because of the NOT, it will be a false. So let me fix this part. Okay. So I think everything is clear. Don't worry, NOT is one of the uh, confusing parts on the conditional statements, but that's the idea. If this is false because of this NOT, that will be a true. Okay, false or true. So you have this or. We said that at least one is needed. So did we satisfy the condition? Yes, because we have a true. If you have an or, let me go back into that part. If you are using or, even if everything is false, but you have at least one that is true, the code below that will be executed. The same case as this. One is true, one is false, that is connected by or. Therefore, this part will be executed. Okay? So, without running this, what would be the result? What would be the value of result if we run this? Why there is no print? Good point. Good point on that. In conditional statements, it is not required to always print the result. However, you would not see the value. If you have multiple things that you want to print, you the only thing that you would see is the last thing that happened. But in this case, this because this is the thing that is present here, I guess it will present as 20 times 10, which is at 200. But always remember that on conditional statements, it is not required to have a print. It means that this chunk of code it is not required to print whatever the result is. So maybe printing is a purpose of another chunk of code. Maybe this part is just for testing to proceed to much higher analysis. So like a gateway that you don't need to see the result. It just tests. It is just a way to test if something is true or false. So if you want to see the result, um, add another part, which is print result on both print result. Okay, what will happen here? If this was satisfied, this part will be executed. So first, it will calculate num1 times num2, and it will be stored at the value of result. And you will print the value of result. Okay? The same case as this. So in that way, you would see the answer. So here, we somehow spoiled the answer. That among these two parts, oops, that's the thing that I clicked. Why we use, okay, asterisk. That is the multiplication in Python. If you can still remember that. This is this symbol is for multiplication. This is for exponential. differentiation. Okay? Single is for multiplication, double exponentiation. So in Python, this means 2 times 3. Okay? Why we multiply? It depends on you, on what. This is just an example in which if this is true, Python will multiply the result. It depends on you whether how you want those values to be printed. But here, context-wise, there's no reason why we are multiplying num1 and num2. This is just an example that if this condition was satisfied, we will multiply the numbers. But if that condition was not satisfied, we will add it. Like, this is just a simple example, but context-wise, there's no meaning behind this. We have a choice to make this subtraction, division, so anything. Okay. Okay, so the result of this code is 200. Okay, so there is an explanation on the presentation. The if condition is fulfilled because this part, not num2 less than 5, this part is true. And we have the operator or. And if we have an or, at least once conditional statement was satisfied, the code will run. So hence, we multiply num1 and num2 to get 200. Okay? An elif condition requires an if condition, but not an else condition. Is it true or false? The structure looks like if, elif, else. So I have,
True.
okay, this one is true. How about you, Hasiba? Is it true or false? The structure is if, elif, else. Okay, true. Both of you answered true. So what's the answer here? Yes, true. There can be an if, elif statement. So without the else, it can exist. However, elif requires if. So you cannot start a conditional statement without starting it in an if. So that's the thing in conditional statements. Okay. The condition in a conditional statement always returns a string, integer, boolean, none of the above. What's the answer here? A, B, C, or D? D for Asiba. How about Grace?
The condition.
What are the things that is being returned to us by the conditions, the conditional statement?
The condition
Okay, the
should be
condition.
returning true or false,
Okay, true or false.
because
What
then you
data
can
type?
change what the then is, right? So
Okay, what data type is
let's
true or false?
see.
Yes, exactly. C. Okay, remember that. As you can see here, these conditions in the condition, this whole thing is conditional statement. And under the if and the ellipse, you can see the conditions. And the condition can be deduced into either true or false. And the data type of true or false is a Boolean. That's why the answer here is C. Conditional expression always return true. And that's it for the conditional statements. Conditional statements, on the overview, it is quite simple. However, the structure of it is quite simple. However, we need a lot of practices to understand this thing because the the questions arises when you are doing the practice in the case of conditional statements. So let's let's have practices about the conditional statements. The last time we have performed this number 6. So let's perform the other items. We have 7 items here, and I think that's enough for us to understand the conditional statements. Okay, so number 1, write a program that checks if a number is even or odd. Okay, for this item, I will perform this, but for the following items, I will call someone to perform the conditional statements. So I will copy and paste it on the column, and let's try to break down the problem. These parts of our lesson requires problem solving skills. And in the thing in problem solving skills is if you can understand the problem correctly, you are around 70% done in the process. So let's understand this problem. So determine if the given number n is even or odd. So you have an initial value which is 15, and you want to write a code to determine if that is an even or an odd. So before that, how can we say that a given number is even? And how can we say that a given number is odd? So what's the difference between even and odd numbers? Based on what you can remember. It's okay if you can't remember it, but
Can you define it by its divisibility or no?
yes, it is based on its divisibility. And in fact, we can say that a number is even if that is perfectly divisible by 2. So even numbers are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and so on. So these numbers are even numbers because if you divide them by 2, you can get a whole number, meaning there is no decimal. Unlike if you divide numbers such as 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. If you divide these numbers by 2, the answer would have a remainder 1. So the remainder after dividing by 2 is 1. Okay? By 2 is 1. Let's have a quotation so that it will not be confusing. Even numbers, if you will divide them by 2, remainder is 0 because they are perfectly divisible by 2. Okay. So we are clear to this part that an even number, if we divide it by 2, the remainder should be 0. So 15, what is it? Is it an even or an odd?
Odd.
So this is an odd number. So we need to write a conditional statement that if we run it, it will give us an odd as the answer. So let's make our code simple that the choices are either odd or even. Odd or even are the only choices. So in that case, what structure do you need? You have only two choices. Can we use if else? Okay, this is the thing. Two choices. The structure is if else. More than two choices, you need to use if, elif, else. Okay, to put it simply. So here, we only have two choices, add or even. So it's clear that we will just use the if else. Okay, so let's start the writing of the code. If. So what is the thing that you are testing? The n, which is equal to 15. What is the thing that we want to test? We want to ask, is n divisible by 2? If yes, then it is even. So that is the backbone of our problem, right? So if n is divisible by 2, so what's the meaning of divisible? N is divisible by 2. Meaning n, the remainder when you divide it by 0, by 2, should be 0. This is how we define divisibility in Python. If this is true,
Can you read that again one more time? If n visible
okay,
by 2, remainder, because it
okay,
doesn't that one use remainder?
okay. This part will give you the remainder. And you are comparing that remainder if that is equal to 0. If that is equal to 0, therefore it is divisible by 2. Okay, so let me note it here. N by 2. So the meaning of this is, what is the remainder if we divide n by 2? So what's the remainder if you divide n by 2? We can get a value, right? And we will test if that value is equal to 0. So remember, we can imply equality in Python using the double equal sign. If based on this, okay, double equal sign is used to define equality in Python. The single equal sign is used for defining variables. Okay, so the double equal is used for the equality. That is the equality symbol in Python. So is this part clear? Is this line 17 clear? This part will give you a remainder, and you are testing if that remainder is equal to 0. Okay? So if this is true, therefore, so let's say even. Otherwise, if I can get a value that is not 0, okay, any other number that is not 0, I want to print odd. Is everything clear at this?
You don't have to print anything else at else,
Yes.
or you don't have to give a condition for else.
Yes. For else, condition is not required. It is not needed under the else. But if
Because
you want to
for this one, this is that's because it's binary, right? With the it's either true or not. Okay.
Yes. But in case that you want to specify the condition, we can also do that using the elif. But if you use the elif, you need to write the condition like this. Um, okay. This way, we are asking, what's the we are not asking, or we are specifying that if the remainder of the number divided by 2 is not equal to 0, do this. Okay? But that is the same thing that else can do in this case, because there are only 2 choices. In else. Use elif if you want to specify the condition. So maybe it's better if I will send a screenshot of this so that it will be a guide for you. So is everything clear at this code? Do you have any questions on this?
So if you write something with if and elif, does it need an else?
Can you repeat your question?
If you write something with if and elif, does it need to have an else?
If you use if and elif, it else is not required.
Ah, okay.
So elif can exist without the else. There is part here. That is the okay, this part. An elif condition requires if but not else condition. So elif can exist, or a conditional statement is uh, a whole even if you don't have an else. Okay, so if we will write here an elif, so let me just write again the codes that I deleted a while ago. This alone is fine. It doesn't require any else. Okay, this one will run. Okay, so actually there are 2 solutions. One is this, and one is this. Okay, one is this, the other one is this, but both of them are the same, logically speaking. This one says now the number is divisible by 2. The other one, so if this one failed, therefore that number is not divisible by 2. The same case as this. This part tells that the number is divisible by 2. This part tells that the number is not divisible by 2. Okay? So let's run the code and let's see what would be the result. Okay, so n is 15. Initially, it is 15. And we tested if the n, when we divided by 2, is it equal to 0? 15 divided by 2. The answer is 7. 15 divided by 2 is equal to 7. Remainder 1. So the remainder is 1. Is 1 equal to 0? False. Therefore, this part will be skipped. It will proceed to the else and print this part. Python reads the codes line by line, but in the case of conditional statements, there are lines that are being skipped if the certain condition was not satisfied. Okay? The same case as this. It prints the add. This one is the condition. We know that the answer is 1. Okay? This one, the value of this is 1. And we know that 1 is not equal to 0. That's why the value of this is false. But this part was satisfied because 1 is not equal to 0. This part is 2. That's why it printed add. Okay? Questions? Questions? Grace and the Siba?
No, it makes
Everything
sense.
clear? So make sense? How about the Siba? Everything clear?
Yeah, I think I just need practice like expressing the conditional part.
Okay.
Like
So we need
n percentage sign 2 equals like that would be 10.
okay. In the case of these conditional statements, I think that's the most challenging part when we are talking about the divisibility of something. So this one, even if the choices are simple, but the thing that makes it complicated is this part. But let me explain it one more time, and then I will give you time to process it, and then we will proceed to the uh, following questions. So this part, we are testing if the n is divisible by 2. To say that if the num it to say that n is divisible by 2, it means that if we divide n by 2, the remainder should be 0. So if to translate that into the language that is understandable by Python, we are using modulo operator. Take note that this operation is called modulo operator. So if you use modulo operator, it will give you the remainder after you divide two numbers. Let's say n is 15, right? When you divide it by 2, the remainder is 1. So if Python says that n percentage 2, it means that you want the remainder value, not the answer itself. You want to determine what's the remainder. And you are comparing that remainder to 0 if they are equal. Okay? So in this case, since our n is 15, so n divided by 2, remainder is 1, and that is not equal to 0. That's why this part will not be printed because this part is false. Therefore, it will proceed to the alternative, which is add. Let's test it. Let us make this 14. 14 is perfectly divisible by 2, in which that if you divide 14, if you divide 14 to 2, the answer is 7, remainder is 0. So if you tell Python, hey Python, I want to see the remainder if I divide n by 2. So this part will give you 0 because 14 divided by 2, you know that this is the value. Remainder is 0, and you are asking, is 0 equal to 0? That is true. Therefore, this part will be printed. And if that's the case, if I run this part, I should see even the result. Okay? So I think that's it for the explanation of that part. I will screenshot this also because this is another version of the code. So we tested it using two numbers, using 14 and 15. One is 14, one is 15. Okay? So take your time to digest the structure of the code. Take note that if you have only two choices, the recommended structure is if else. But if you have more than two choices, the recommended structure is if, elif, else. In this case, in this part, you can add as many elif as you need. If you have 14 choices, you can add 12 elifs. So that's the case. You can add as many elifs as you want. Elifs. Not as you want, but technically as you need. Okay, so I think it's the best time if we will proceed to the next practices. Okay, this one is quite simple. So who wants to volunteer among you two? Who wants to volunteer to answer this question number 2? Testing if the number is positive, negative, or zero. With the initial value of x is -7. Okay, so who wants to try this one? Don't worry, I will guide you on writing your codes. So, but you are the one who will perform this. Okay, Hasiba, you can take over this. Okay, let me copy this code on the column. And I think this one looks fine. This one looks fine to me. So initially, the value is x is less than 7. So in this case, you have three choices. You have three choices in which the number is either positive, negative, or zero. Right? So you are right on the part that you used if, elif, and else. Okay. So next, x initially is less than 7, or less than 7, -7, and you are testing if the number x is greater than 0. If that is true, print x is positive. If this is false, do not perform this proceed to the next line. So what's the next line? It will ask, is x less than 0? If that is true, it will print x is negative. If that is false, this will be skipped as well and will proceed to the last line of defense, which is the else. And it will print x is 0. So let's try to run this. We know that x is negative. So that should be the answer. The part of the code that was executed is this second line. Why is that? Because this part was false. -7 is not greater than 0. So that is false. So this part will not execute. It will proceed to the next part. And it will ask, is x less than 0? -7 is less than 0. So that is true. Therefore, this part was executed. X is negative. So this is correct, Hasiba. Maybe the only thing that I can recommend on your code is instead of saying that x is positive, x is negative, x is 0, you can give it a separate format like this. X, comma, right? So that on the result, we would see the number itself followed by a string. It's positive, it's negative, or 0. So we just transferred it outside of the quotation. So that when we run it, we can see the number itself. That's only a recommendation, but your code is correct. Okay. So good job on that, Hasiba. Okay. So let's proceed. Oops, here is our instructor. Here is Erjan. Hello,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah. How are you guys? Apologies for being late. We just finished the webinar. Yeah, I think you can finish it, John. How many items do you still have? I don't want to interrupt the
We have
discussion.
we have we have 8 items here originally, but we are done performing the 3. So
Oh, okay,
we
okay.
still have 5.
Okay. So with that, I think, yeah, I thought that you're left with like two or just one. So with that, I think we can proceed to the discussion, if you don't mind.
Okay, sir. It's okay.
Yep.
But I already gave them the overview of the remaining parts of the conditional statements,
Okay.
such
Okay.
as the
Thank you
parts of
very
the
much.
if else.
Yep. So
Okay, sir.
basically, um, the elif part is like an extension of the if conditional statement, so that it would allow us to have more options, right? So as compared to just having um, the if and the else. So um, it would also allow us to avoid doing nestings, right? Um, so yep. Let me see. I want to start today on. Let's see. Give me a minute. Yeah. I want to start with loops because Let's see. Hi, Jeff. Welcome to the meeting.
Hey guys.
Yeah, we're just starting with the lecture. I think John went through the answers from the previous lab. Um, I had to adjust the lecture or because of the webinar that coincides with the lecture. Yeah, let me share my screen. So for today's session, I want to discuss loops, and this is one topic that people find really confusing. So aside from conditional statements, so especially if you're just starting with programming, um, loops would be a bit confusing. However, um, loops are very useful in a way that instead of writing numerous lines of conditional statements, you can just write a loop that would run through all of the elements of a collection, or as long as it satisfies a value, it would continue doing the process that you've written. So it's it's an important topic. It's an important fundamental topic in any programming language. Okay, can you see my screen? Just to verify. Okay, thank you very much. So for today, yeah, I want to discuss the overview of loops, for loops, and while loops. But before that, do you have any questions about the conditional statements? Although John would be still pursuing on the remaining items later after the lecture, I just want to ask if um yeah based from the previous discussion that we had, um maybe you have any questions or anything that you're confused with. No questions? Was it really clear? So one thing that you have to remember is the structure of the conditional statement. Okay, so the if statement, the conditional statement always starts with it. Okay, the if statement followed by the different operations that you want to do. So any valid operations could follow. You could work on any valid operations in a conditional statement, and depending on your goal, it could be that you have to use an elif or just an else for a very simple task. So again, it's context specific, goal based. Um, I'm referring to the use of a conditional statement. Okay, so yep, so we will be discussing for today two types of loops, the for and the while loops. Okay, and these are the two most um, used types of loops in Python. This is something that we haven't discussed in SQL. There's no SQL counterpart for this. Um, but the loops allow us to do recursive computation, to apply an operation recursively instead of writing a very lengthy conditional statement. Okay, so let's have an overview. So let me go through this. What are loops? So loops allow us to perform set of instructions for a specific number of times. So they solve the problem of having to write the same set of instruction over and over again. So this is called iteration. Okay. Um, it a thing would iterate It would do the same process over and over again until it satisfies a specified condition. So this can be really helpful for iterating over the elements of a data structure, like a list or a tuple or even a dictionary, while performing operations at each time. Like, for example, you want to multiply by 2 every number that you have on the list. So that can be done, okay? That can be done using a conditional statement, but can be more efficiently done through loops or iteration, okay? So there are two kinds of loops in Python. Fundamentally, these are the two types of loops that we have, the for and the while loop, okay? So let's discuss the for loops. Okay, but before that, can you think of any situation that you would be needing to use iterative processes or iterative computation? Can you think of any instances, um, or yeah, in terms of data, when would you need to do iteration or loops? Let me give you an example. So suppose that you want to apply um, you want to apply a computation for while the age is greater than 18 years old. So you have this long list, you have this long number of rows that show the age. Instead of first sorting it out, similar to what we did with SQL, um, you can just create a while loop that would apply the condition, or even a for loop. It can be done by a for loop that when it encounters um, age greater than 18, it would do the um, the computation. Okay, so that's one example. And let me see the chat box. Jeff says filtering out for a new list. That's basically um, yeah, applicable to the example that I just said. You can create a new list by filtering out all that are, say, 18 years old and younger. You can do that by either a for loop and a while loop. So, yep. Also, for example, you want to write a program that filters out those observations that are missing, or using the len function, all inputs that are less than a particular size. So you can do that. I mean, it's very flexible. That's what I want to highlight here. It's very flexible and it can solve so many types of problem, particularly ones that are needing to be iteratively applied to your data set. Okay, so your data set, I'm referring to whatever data structure it is on. It could be a dictionary, it could be a list, or it could be a tuple, and so on. Even data frame, another type of structure that we will be talking about as we proceed along, can be applied with these two types of loops. Okay, so let's discuss the for loops. So what are for loops? The for loop iterates over a sequence. It could be a list, it could be a tuple, a dictionary, a set, or a string. So starting from the beginning and stopping once it reaches the end. So from the very first element until it exhausts or loops over all of the elements. to the last. Okay, so it doesn't skip any element. So it goes through all of them. That's the for loop. So in a for loop, we need to define three main things. Okay, the name of the iterator. So that is the iterator that I have in here. So the iterator can be named like anyhow you want. Okay, it could be just one letter. Okay, it could be a word or whatever that makes sense to you. So another thing that we need would be the sequence to be looped through. So the sequence would be, it could be a list, it could be a dictionary, a set, or whatever. It's a collection of objects. So a set of operation to perform. What will you do? So that is the main process here. So for iterator name in sequence, then colon. So the structure is similar to the structure of the if statement, right? That is, you still be using this colon, and then after that, you need to define what set of operations you need to perform to each of the element in the sequence. Okay, so for loops always begin with the for keyword. So automatically, once the system sees that for keyword, it would think that you're trying to define a loop, a for loop specifically. Okay, so similar as with conditional statements, when you are working with loops, either the for and the while, when you're working with them in Python, you need to combine your logic and your ability to translate the idea to codes. So you need those two things. Okay, so slowly we are building that skill. Okay, because writing the codes, being familiar with the syntax, well, as you use more and more Python, it would come naturally. But the ability to translate your idea into codes, that's something that we need to invest more time with. There are people, okay, there are people that are gifted, okay, like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Zuckerberg. Those are like some of the people in our population, and they just comprise like maybe less than 1%. They can easily do that. And thinking about a great idea is one difficult thing, and translating it into reality through codes is another difficult thing. Okay, so it's not just sufficient that you know how to generate great ideas, you need to know how to execute them. So both are um, challenging, both are difficult, and it would require you to um, invest more time to practice, invest more time to um, gain experience with. So moving on, looping through a list. So we have here an example. This is a very basic one. Okay, we'll start with the basic one, and then we will build on the complexity and make challenging examples and practices as we move along. So we have here a sequence. So what type of data structure is this, Hasiba? What type of data structure is skills? This that we are defining right here. Can you identify?
A list?
Exactly. This is the list. And how are you able to identify it? We did not use any function here. Through the
Through the brackets?
square brackets, exactly. So that is correct. Skills here is a list, okay? And aside from that, I actually mentioned it in the bullet at the top, okay? So this is a list of the topics that we will be discussing in class minus statistics. So I forgot to add statistics here. Um, so we will be iterating through this. We are saying that, okay, for every item, okay, for iterator, for X or for, you can think of it as like for every object in the in the collection, print, okay? Again, for every X, for X, it refers to each of the elements here, print X. So it would go, okay, for the first iteration, imagine what's happening under the hood is you have different lines. So first line, okay, print the first character, Excel. That's why you have the first output right here. And then another SQL, that is on another line. SQL, then Power BI, then Python. And then after that, you have gone through all of the elements on the list, so you stop. Okay, remember that for the for loop, it iterates to each of the elements of your container or your data structure or your sequence. Okay, it will not skip any of the thing that you have in there. Okay, so we have here X, which is the name of the iterator. You can name it. You might be thinking, where did the X came from? Okay, the X is arbitrary. Arbitrary in the sense that anything like any letter or any word that you put in there would still work. So it not necessarily needs to be an X. So let me show through my Colab what I was referring to. Apologies for that. I'm still suffering from cough. It's been going on for weeks now. Can you see my Colab, guys? Okay, awesome. So for loops. So we have in there earlier, we have the I forgot. We have the skills. In fact, it's not correct to call it skills, but maybe just topics. So let's have here Python. We have Excel, not on the same order as what we have seen earlier. Power BI. I'll be adding statistics now, and then SQL. Okay. So if we want to iterate over this sequence, over this list, we'll be defining for I in let's see, yeah, for I in skills. Yeah, it changes colors. I almost forgot that in is also an operator. Okay, remember how we used it to specify multiple ors? The reason why it changes colors because of that. Okay, it's also an operator. So for I in skills, what do we do? What process do we want to execute? We want to print I. Okay, so if we do that, you would observe that, okay, for each of the elements, it will be printing it. So as much as possible, we want to name the iterator as simple as possible, but you can complete it. Uh, it's not common to do that. It's not too common to have it a complete name of iterator, but it would still work. Okay, so you would see in some resources online that they are using I refers to basically the iterator. Okay, that's why it's common to see I in for loops. But again, it doesn't matter. Anything that you put in there, whatever you like, it would still be valid. Okay. In fact, I think it would still work even if I don't put anything in here. Yes. Okay, doesn't want that. So at least hmm, maybe I'm thinking of a different thing. But yeah, that's one thing that I want to highlight here. It doesn't need to be X. Okay. So here basically it's a same thing, but here we'll be treating a single string, okay, and its elements would be the each of the characters it has. So we have the tool in here, and we have Chat GPT. It is a form of generative artificial intelligence, a very useful one. John, you can start introducing Chat GPT to them in labs. Okay, slowly, slowly. I think we have gone through most of the fundamentals, and it's time that we incorporate artificial intelligence. Don't compete with AI. Use AI. It's a tool for us. Okay, it's a tool for us. So we don't have to resent it. We don't have to somehow like have a repulsion from it. Uh, Take advantage of it. Maximize the tool. So here for X in tool, it would be referring to each of the characters. So starting with C, we'll be printing that. So this is the operation after the colon. So it would print first C, and then H, and then A, then up to the last letter. Okay. So what happens if we have a space in there? So basically, it would just treat it as a character, right? So my name. So if we write for I in string, print I. If we do this, you would observe that, okay, we'll be having a space in there. So it will go through each of the element, including this space, because it's being treated as a character once you enclose it with quotation marks. Okay. You know what? Give me a minute. I'll just get some water. I think my throat is not getting too well. Give me a minute, and you can also do a quick break. Okay, get some water also, and go to the bathroom if needed. I'll be right back immediately.
Yeah, take your time.
Okay, I'm back. Apologies for the interruption. I think I needed that. Um, I needed that break. Okay. So where was I? So yeah, I just highlighted earlier that even if I put a space in between, like chat and GPT, it would still be captured by the operation. So that space would still be printed because the system sees it as also a character. Okay, I'm catching my breath. Okay, so yeah, I included here that the name of iterator does not have to be X. It could be anything. It could be called I. I refers to iterator. Okay, so let's have a practice. So this is basically similar to what we did earlier. We have to create first a list, and the name of that list is characters. That contains this different letters, different characters, and there's a catch here. Sort characters so that the elements are in alphabetical order. So what do you think can you use in order to sort this list? So you have to do that before you apply a for loop to it to print each of the element. Any ideas from the group? Any ideas and how we can sort it? Of course, it just contains like several elements, so it's not that
Do you use
complex. Yep, Grace, please go ahead.
could you use characters dot sort, or do you want to
Perfect.
print a sorted characters? Right.
Perfect. Yeah, Grace. So the dot sort is a method for list, right? So we can try doing that. So let's see. Let's switch back here. So again, you can do it through brute method, right? You can manually sort it, but it's not the most efficient way because well, if you have tons of characters in there, it would not be very efficient to do it manually. Okay, so I'll be creating a new list. I call it my car, and then I'll have say this following characters in it. So I'll not have the same thing that we have earlier, but in principle they should be the same. And after that, I'll be applying this method that I know, right, would sort it in by default from the lowest to highest if it's a number, or alphabetically from A to Z. Okay, if I don't put anything in here, like any argument to say that the reverse would be true. And then after that, I'll be writing a for loop that says for I in my car. Well, guys, uh, I is the default for me. Okay, so it depends on you. If some people they use N, some use X. So it depends on your preference. But me, my default iterator there is I. Okay, so for I in my list, my car, I want to print each of it. So I should observe, okay, the printing would be starting from A because it's already sorted, right? The list is already sorted, and then followed by G, P, and lastly B. So that's how you do it. That's how you do that. The task of first creating a list, sorting it, applying a method, and then creating a loop that would go over each of the element, okay, of that list. Do you follow? Is that even clear? Can I get the thumbs up from the group? Questions? I see Grace. How about the Siba and Jeff? I see Hasiba, Jeff. Everything's clear? Or Jeff could be at work, I think. Okay, so moving forward, Jeff, are you there? Everything's clear? Just want to make sure before I proceed. Okay, maybe Jeff was is away for a while. So let's proceed here. Basically, this is just the answer. So yeah, this is also one thing why I prefer working with lists. Because you can manipulate it through these different methods that we have. So most of the time when I work with this different data structures, ultimately I I would still convert them to lists. It would allow me to efficiently navigate um, through it. So looping through a dictionary, you might be thinking, okay, why do we need to loop through a dictionary if you said that we can just have it transformed to a list? It's also a skill. Okay, it's also a good thing that you know how to work with it. But even though eventually you will have your own preferences of working through things. So let's have this. There are several ways we can loop through a dictionary, through the keys, through the values, through both of them. Okay, you can loop through just the keys or just the values, but you can also loop through both of them. So here, as you can see, we are printing the keys of a dictionary, which is not that different, right, from what we did with list. So it gives us a question: how then we'll be able to loop through the values instead of just the keys? And can you remember something that would allow us to access the values?
Dot value?
Okay, so the dot value would allow us to um to access those values in a dictionary, right? So let's see if that's the thing that we can use. So that's correct. So there are two methods that I have in here. So for topic, in topics dictionary, print topics topic. So what do we have here? So remember the slicing that we did before? So basically, we just applied it here. If we are saying, right, that the topics here refer to the keys, so basically we are just slicing the dictionary through the keys in here. And it would give us, you guess it right, the values. Do you follow? Alternatively, just like what Jeff said, we can use a method for dictionaries. So for topic in dictionaries, that values print topic. So I think method two is more intuitive. I think the group would agree. However, this is more efficient. And me, I always do it this way because this is something that we already know. We are slicing through the dictionary through its keys, right? So, yep, again, it depends on your preference whether you use this or the method two. Both would still arrive on the same results. It's just a matter of preference and um, yeah, whether you're more comfortable in doing one version as compared to the other. But it pays to know both, right? It's good that you know both. Okay, so I think we have an example right here. Okay, I forgot the both the keys and values together, and we definitely know how to do that, right? We can use the dot items, but but since we have two items now, notice that we have x and y in here. So this would be um, referring to two objects. So the first object x would be referring to the keys, and the y would be referring to the corresponding values. So if you try to just do x in there, what do you think would happen? Let's see, right? So we create our own dictionary. So we can create a dictionary and then assign it with just this. We want to make things simple. And then yeah, what I was about to do instead of, okay, just to make sure that we have the correct one. Okay, we have a dictionary there, and for x in the items, print where was I? That's in the items, print x. So what is the difference? I want you to identify the difference when you just put x in here and when you put y. There's a significant difference between this, and it would affect your calculation. So when you apply calculation to the resulting values. So I want you to identify that. What what is the difference between these two outputs? Anyone? Any guesses here? No guesses? So let me provide the answer. So notice for the first one, it actually gives us a tuple of values, right? So this is one tuple, a tuple containing the key and the value pair, right? So this is considered as just one thing. In for example, if you put it in a collection, imagine having a list containing that. So for example, having a new list that contains the list tuples of values, right? So you can do that. I think we had an example like this before, right, Sean? I think we had an example like this. So a tuple inside the list. Now, what do you think is this? It's just a plain old string, right? So this is a string. So what you have in the first time would be uh, the key, which is 1 and A, but this is just considered as just a string. So if you think about it, um, there is a significant difference in the way the information are stored. When you have a tuple like this, when you print it as it's just a single element, and as you or when you compared, or, when you do, okay, when you do it with x and y. So while here you might be thinking, okay, this refers referred to like two things, two objects. The answer is no. It's just a single string right here. Consider it's just one string, and then one string. Okay, but here this is one element or one object, a tuple, another object, and another object. Okay, so one results to just a string, and one results to a data structure. Okay, guys, do you follow? So that's the difference here. And you might be thinking, which is the correct one? It depends on you. It depends on what you want to accomplish. If you want to store your information in a tuple form, well, for me, this is way better. Why? Because there will be a separation between the key value pairs. Yep, Grace.
Um, what about the X, Y commands it? Or does that, what was the question? Like, why does using X, Y make sense to present it as a string, and then just X
Yeah, if
presents
you
it
want to
as a tuple?
if you want to separate, for some reason you want to separate the part for the keys and the part for the values. There might be a special case you may want to do that, but in most cases you don't want to separate them. But this output basically tells you that the resulting outputs from the for loop would be like a part for keys and a part for values. So they are not in a specific data structure. They are just
Mm-hmm.
strings. Yeah. However, here we are specifically saying that, okay, you group them as a single object. So this is a single object. So this is considered as a single object, a tuple, another tuple, and another tuple. So for me, if you're working with a dictionary and you want to iterate through it, this is way better, right? Because we don't want to separate the key and the value. They are pairs. So it might lead to more confusion if you try to separate the two. So the question here is just about the structure, guys. The difference of the output between this is only about the structure. One results to um, a collection, and one results to like a single string object. Do you follow?
Can you explain again why, like, between 4x and it's so x here is only like a placeholder, right? Like,
Yes, both are placeholders.
so can you technically use A and B? Does that work? Or
And yes, it would still work. Let me see. Um, if we try A and B here, I'll get back to it later. If we try changing it to A and B here, you can take any
oh,
name
okay,
actually.
so
Yeah.
it's so if we do it for A and B, it's essentially that's just giving you everything that has a format of that's
Yes.
essentially everything that's a tuple that it's gonna be printed out the
Um,
two.
Not really a tuple. I mean, it just means that you have two placeholders there. So it would look for, if you try to add a C in here, so it would expect that you have a third element, right? So it would
Okay,
tell
so
you
it's
that
basically
not
anything
enough values.
that's two value. That's a two element. in the
Yes,
dictionary.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And on top, it's basically anything that's But then so that's actually the question then.
Hmm.
And if this is the same list, if you scroll up a little bit,
Okay.
uh, oh, it's because one is using the dictionary and one is using the tuple is basically using a tuple. Wait, so that's the
Ye-
thing. That well, actually that's my question here is that how come over here there's just one element
Um,
and you can print it's
you might
detecting
you
it like
might be
it's
confused by the existence of this. I just made this as a like something
right.
after
So
this.
what
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that like so this code right here is for X in dictionary items, and the other one is
Yes.
for A and B in dictionary items. And then you just test it. If you do A, B, and C, it wouldn't work because there's no three elements, but it recognizes two
Exactly.
elements. But over here on uh the ones above, that's no above that the four X in dictionary items. It's only
Hmm.
one element, and it's still recognizing that like. So that's actually my confusion. How does that like know
Actually,
it's
it's not just
that
one
format?
element. There are three elements here. If you
I know,
treat
but
it
each
as
each
yeah.
element it's only doing it's only showing that there's X instead of like X
Oh,
column
okay, okay.
Y or something like that. It's still kind of it still meets the condition. You know what I'm saying? Like it's still meeting the condition even though it's on there it's one column
Yeah,
A.
yeah, yeah. I
Over here
got
it's
your
just a
point. Yeah. So
yeah.
for this
It's kind of
one,
hard for me to articulate that, but like I'm just saying that I'm kind of
yeah, yeah, yeah. I got it. I got the question, Jeff. So here you are wondering that why is it able to capture both of this with just a single X? Well,
yeah. It's
the
like the
system
formatting doesn't
knows.
match. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. The system knows that once you're working with a dictionary, typically you want to have the pair of key values. So it automatically knows that if you just use or supply X in here, you are referring to the entirety of each of the records. So this is one record, this is another record, this is another record. So it's treating it as just single object.
And then the
However,
system also
here,
knows that if you add a comma on there, like so at the
yes,
same line, if you add a comma next to X and then put a Y, it
it would
knows that it
separate
also
them.
meets the condition.
Yes, it
Okay.
would still meet the condition. However, you then
You will get a different type of output.
explicitly, yeah, you explicitly stated then that you want to see the key value pairs outside of being a tuple or a pair.
Got
The
it.
way I see it, Jeff, it's kind of almost like marriage filing jointly and marriage filing single. Like
Uh,
at the
Exactly.
end, the output is the same, but how
Yes.
you present it affects what you can do with it.
Yes.
I
So
guess
Yeah.
the thing that caught me off guard is that like basically the system automatically knows. So like
Yeah,
automatically
because that
knows.
was my
whether you do
question.
like
That was
like
my
a
question. I
X
was
or
like,
you
why
do
the
like a
need
X
for a
Y,
pair?
but then if you do X Y Z, then it wouldn't work. As long as it's like X and no that see that was the one thing is that because if you do X, it will work and it will give you a specific output. And if you do
Mm,
X, Y, it will also work, and it will give you another output. And that I guess over here in that example, like you have on there the one that was still with the X. If you do for X comma Y in dictionary items, and you do print X, then you will just print the key, right? It would just
yes.
print the key
Yes.
part of it, right? But yeah, but the thing that caught me off guard is that fact like if you just do X, it will work. If you do X, Y, it will also work. But then if you do X, Y, Z, it wouldn't work because there is no Z. But then he
Yes.
automatically figures out like if you do, there's like yeah. So I guess if yeah, so
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm.
It's also unique with the data structure that you're working on. Actually, putting it in a dictionary, you automatically allowing the system to know what are the things that you can do with it. So that's one
Uh,
thing. So since this is a dictionary explicitly, since we use curly brackets, right? So it already knows what are the things that could be done with the dictionary. So one thing is you can treat this key value pairs as just one object by just specifying an X in here, right? So it automatically identifies, okay, since you're combining it with a dot items method, which is a method of a dictionary, this would be the resulting thing. But if you say you apply it with the dot values in here, it will just give you a single element, which is ABC. So
Got
it
it.
automatically knows because you're applying a specific method for used for a particular type of data structure. So if you tried applying the AB in here, however, you have a dot values in there, so there would be no available value for the position B. So it would throw you
Oh
an
yeah,
error
because you're
actually.
using the items. That's what it is.
Yes. So it would
And
be
items can be. I
not
guess
enough.
it's the thing that about items is flexible.
Yeah,
It could be
items.
treated when you do items. It can be treated as one pair, or it can be treated as one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Regardless, it's still like we said with the household. It's still one household basically.
Yes, they are basically the same. It's just like what
We said yeah.
Grace said. It's a matter of presentation. I'm not saying that this is like the best way, but I'm well more comfortable with this because I'm not comfortable treating them like or presenting them separately because it doesn't make sense to do that. So for me, this is a more intuitive way of checking the items in my dictionary because it always comes with a pair of keys and value. You may not want to present the dictionary through the values alone because the values are not unique, right? So it's always with the keys. Do you follow?
Yep.
So yeah, that's one thing that I just want to highlight here. It's not even in the um in the slides. So it's one thing that yeah, mm, you might encounter it in the future, but at least you know the difference. Okay, the difference. Okay, so let's proceed. So this is another practice for loops. Okay, so the first step is to create the following dictionary. So the keys here are the name of the products: banana, cheese, and bread. Let's see the chat box. Okay, thank you very much, John. So we have the following prices for each of this. We have 15, 455, and 399. Also, we will be creating a variable called grocery bill and set it equal to 0. So we're trying to create here a loop that would give us the total bill. That's basically what we want to do here. So using a for loop, display each price. Also, so that's one thing that you want to accomplish with the for loop. Add each item's price to the grocery bill. Now, I want you to challenge yourself a bit. I'll be giving you 3 or maybe 5 minutes to try it yourself before I reveal the answer. Okay, I just want you to apply this idea that we talked about earlier. Um, this is just a sum, so don't overcomplicate it. Okay, so it's just a sum. Sum will give you the total bill. Okay, so your timer starts now. I'll be giving you 3 to 5, maybe 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And I'll be calling someone to share their work. while you're doing that, how was the election doing in the US? Are you keeping up with the news about the election, the presidential election?
Oh my gosh. Now we're like
Or
on
you?
constant election, so it's not till November that the vote.
Oh, I see, I see. But how's the voter turnout in the US? Is it high?
I think it's still low. I think it's between 30 to 40.
Which that's actually normal. 30 to
Yeah.
40 is like the average.
I don't that's a population, right? But then once like
Yes.
of eligible
Population
voters,
population of voters actually, not the like entirety
not
of
the
the
whole
population.
population.
Yeah. So
Oh,
the
so then
voter
that's low.
turnout is computed based on the number of
Eligible to vote.
registered. Yeah,
Okay.
not really. It's based on the registered voters.
No way.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's based on that. Uh,
Okay.
there's a funny thing. I've been doing projects related to politics, even here in the Philippines, but I haven't voted even once. Um, I just hate the process.
I know it differs per country, like what is the significance of this vote? Huh? That's a very different
Yeah,
answer per country.
they always say that one vote is significant, but it's easily diluted. If majority of the population are not thinking, then your one vote would be diluted by like two votes of other people. So uh, I just pay taxes and that's it. I'm not saying that um there's another political structure that is better than how do we call this, the one that we have right now,
Democracy.
Democracy. Oh yeah.
democracy. I'm not against democracy, but there are so many loopholes with it. um Same as with communism. I mean, communism and democracy are like the two main political structures right now in the world. Both have loopholes and a complicated thing. A complicated thing. Very complicated thing. I think the next 20 years or so would be very, very critical because of the rise of China. China has been um, significantly different as compared to the other communist countries. Um, but I think it's a very different world if China becomes like the superior the superior force. Anyway, so let's see how many. Okay, I think the wow, time is really fast. It's already been 5 minutes. So any ideas? You can just share the ideas and we can do it together if you're not done yet. Can anyone dictate to me how should I start this?
I think just create a dictionary first. Just add that,
Okay.
copy that exact line. I'm done.
Yep, that's a great start actually. Step one, create a dictionary, right? Dictionary. John, can you please? Do you have it in the chat box?
No, I'm just saying like copy. You actually already have the dictionary written out, so
Oh, okay, okay. Um,
we could just copy that line over and basically assign the variable. Yeah, so it's exactly like
oh,
I think Hasiba just typed it.
yeah, let me see. Um, Grocery bill. Yeah, you can share a screen, Hasiba, please, if you don't mind. Can you share what you have? Let's see what. Um, see. I can't stop sharing. Yeah, you can take it away. Okay. Mm. So what we have here is you're printing. You were able to successfully print each of the products, right? And that's one of the tasks. Let me go back to it. So set it equal to 0. Instead of the product, what you have to display would be the prices, Hasiba. So what method do we have that would allow us to display the values instead of the keys? So since what you have currently are the keys. Okay, so the reason why you're encountering error here is because of your line 2. So in your line 2, you actually um where is the grocery bill?
She ended up adding grocery bill to grocery list dictionary.
Yeah, I think you added the grocery bill there. Hmm, let me think. So what I suggest you to do is to start again um on a different cell, or how do we call that? On a different yeah, on a different, yeah, let me share my screen, Hasiba. Thank you very much. And let's go over it together. um let's do it step by step. So yeah, this is one thing that I learned. um when you have this kind of problem, what you have to do first is to decompose it. Okay, so decompose it in steps. So first is just like what Jeff said. This thing is just creating a dictionary, right? And then this thing at the second bullet is just initialization, right? You remember when we initialized things in the conditional statement lecture? We assign a value to a variable. We call it an initialization process. So that is what the second bullet is about. So yeah, let me do that. So step 1, create a dictionary. I'll just copy what we have in here. So grocery underscore pick. We have banana 15. And then we have the cheese. 455. Very expensive cheese. Okay. Bread. Well, I'm not sure. In the US standard, it could be typical. $455. So that is step one. What is step number two? Initialize grocery bill, right? In initializing the grocery bill, we just create a variable. So basically, this is where we will be storing the total bill. Can you recall how we did the computation before? Let me show it to you here. This one, you remember that we're adding values to x every iteration of the nested if. So while the condition that x is less than y is true, we are iteratively adding 1 to x. So that is one idea that we can use in order to solve this problem, because let's see, we go back. The third bullet asks us to, using a for loop, display each price. So we know how to do that. This is a dictionary, so there's a method in a dictionary called dot values that would display this values that we have that correspond to the prices for each of these products. And aside from that, we have to add items to the grocery bill. So there are two processes here. So two things should go in the process section of the for loop. No. So we have for I in grocery. What I want to get would be the values, right? So this would allow me to get only the prices. Let's see. Okay, so that's correct. And after that, what we need would be um, I click the AI. Look at it. It's telling me. It's telling me the answer already. Okay, but on a different form. So if we follow that, I think I click. Do you have that option also? Because I have an extension
Mine
in my laptop.
mine didn't show me that. I got as
Yeah.
far as to doing for I print
No.
and it printed the values, but it didn't give me a suggestion.
Yeah, the suggestion came from ChatGPT actually. Um, I think I clicked somewhere. I don't intend to use it
Yeah, you probably
immediately
did
here.
click somewhere because then you just agreed to terms and services a while ago.
Yeah.
You turned something on.
And before they don't have that. I mean, I have the extension right here to use it when I need it, but they're really pushing the use of generative AI in coding. So anyway, yeah, let's do it our way, and let's see the AI the AI later, the output from AI's idea. So doing this would give us the values, right? And what we need to do is to print, um, if we print I, this would give us the prices, right? aside from the prices, I may want to print also. Let's see. Does it include that we print the product name? No. So it's only the prices. So that actually works. So aside from that, what I want to do also is to recursively, it's telling me how to do it actually, but um, I okay. And then I'll be notice I'll be putting the print here outside because I don't want to include the printing of the total in the loop. I'll show you later the difference. So this looks good. So now we have a total right here. Is it correct? 55 for
How did
65.
we get there? We have plus equals I, so that means to sum it up.
Yeah, exactly. So let me expound that part. So that part is actually equal to grocery bill plus I. It's just the same thing. Plus I.
Is this grocery dick plus I? Or no?
This grocery bill is the one that we initialized earlier. So that is the thing right here. So we started with it with 0. But it runs over through each of the I's, which refers to the prices of the products. So this is just similar to this. This is just a shorthand notation. Let's run it. Well, I have to initialize it again. And notice the reason why we have 17 right here is because it already has an 8.69 value, so it got twice of that. So if we run again the initialization process, we would get the same thing. Now, what I want to do
So
with
when you
it,
did hold on, when you did the
yep,
for variable in, that then like kind of created its own entity that
yes,
has a variable of I.
yes, exactly.
Okay. That's the
Yep.
part I missed. Yeah.
Now, what I want to do here is I want to see how the total evolves. With the first iteration, I want to see the total grocery bill, and then after we added the price for cheese, and I also want to see actually the name of the products here. So let's see. So I want here to also, aside from printing I want, mm, let's see, this recommendations are flooding my screen. So the prices would be and then let's see. Um, what I want to do here is to do I and J and have items in here. So I and J. So I and J. J now refers to the price. So this should be J and I will be putting the print inside the loop so that I can see how the total is being updated. So I have an I in here just to clarify things. I added I because I want to see also the prices, right? The products together with prices. So that's the reason why I added it. And let's initialize things
Jeff,
again.
earlier you didn't have that last print, right? You only just had the top part, right?
Sorry, this last print.
Yeah, so that's only added like now, right?
Yeah, I just put it
Okay,
inside the loop so that every iteration I would see the total. I would see the total for the first product. That would be 15 cents, and then plus the next one, then the next one.
so it's
So
basically, wait, is that a running total?
yes, that would be a
Okay.
running total. Yeah. Earlier, this is not a running total, but like the final total. So I just printed out the values here, but I did not really generate a running total.
Okay.
So
The other one is the final total. Got it.
yeah, so this is the running total is what I want to do here. So grocery bill. Let's just initialize thing in the same cell so that we don't have to go over and over again. Uh yeah, let's run this. So banana, $15. So this is the first. And I added it to the value of the cheese. And then here, pick up. I have to add for a while. I want to add print the running total. The running total. The running total is grocery bill. Initialize it again. There we go. This is a proper result. So we have banana, $15. The running total is 15. This is the first iteration, guys. This is the first iteration. The second iteration is this. We are adding this 0.15 to the price of the cheese. So you have 4.7 here. And then lastly, the bread, 3.99. That would be added here. So we have 8.69 running total.
I'm so confused.
Yep.
So
Sorry.
I thought by adding I and J, you're displaying the item and the price together. So how
Yes.
did you put in a command for a running total display?
This
Because
part
in your
right here.
former fours, there's not a running total.
Yeah. Then let me clarify that. So
But
the
in the
main
previous one, it
difference.
was just grocery bill plus I.
Yes.
So how does the plus J create a running total?
Okay. This part, this part, and this part from the bottom, basically, in principle, they are just the same. Why I have a running total here? Notice my print function. My print function in the earlier is outside the loop. So it would finish all the loops, all the elements in my for loop before it shows the print. It shows the output in line 4. So notice, Grace, if I run this with the print inside the for loop, it would actually give me also a running total, right? Let's see.
When you say inside, all you did was indentation, right?
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
You just indent it and it should be inside the 4. There should be an indentation. And then let's see. So this would give us actually. Okay,
oh, you
I
have to
failed to initial.
initialize.
Yeah, I failed to initialize it again. So this is point
Okay, so
15.
15 is the total.
Yeah,
455, 7 is the
15 is the
total.
total. Then we have 455 for the price of the cheese,
And so
then
this
add
right
it
here
with
is
it.
just loop. This section.
Yes,
This is the
yes,
for loop.
yes.
And then the bottom one, you said show me price and name, but you did it in the what? Oh, inside the for
Yeah,
plus J, and now it's giving you running total. Okay.
yeah. So I just made it pretty, guys. In the second cell, in the last cell that we have here, because I want to see the products, because it's not nice that you just see the prices. It's better, for example, if you look at your receipt, right? You have the product and their corresponding prices. So that's what we did in here. In fact, I'm thinking of adding a dollar sign somewhere here. I think we can add a dollar sign here, of which I think um
It's before grocery bill, no? Oh, at least
um
in the US.
yeah.
In the US, we
No, you're correct.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
You put the P after. Yeah.
should be before, right? Before the price.
So when
I
you do
can.
something like print outside
Mm,
the for in, how and why, how do you do that and why would you do that?
yeah, that's a great question. So you would put the print here if you don't want to see how the values evolve. Just
It,
remember, you're storing the value, right? You're updating it. So if you just want to see the final thing, you put it outside the for loop so that this is the final value.
it's just the items, put the total outside. But then when you put it inside, it's looping it with giving you a looping running
Yes,
total. Okay, okay.
yes.
We went over that.
Yeah, it would also loop the printing of the running total. Sometimes you want that, you want to see how the values evolve, right? Through each of the updates, because you want to verify if you're doing the correct thing. That's what we did here. We just put additional details so that it looks pretty. Um, Let me just add some decorations here. There we go. Oh, let me see. Why do you have? I think this should not be.
After
My
the
bad.
J, can you
Should be
after the
should
J,
be
can you
after
put
the
a
J.
quote
Yeah, yeah. My bad.
plus?
There we go. Yeah. So, hmm, you can actually do the plus here.
Why does the cents in the total 690000001 look like that?
Sorry. Which one again?
Look at your
This one.
total with its 10 decimals. Yeah. Why does it compute like that?
Let me see. 0.15, 0.15. Yeah, that's a great question. Let me see how we 0.15. Hmm. Yeah, it should be 8.69 without this.
Determine. Yeah, I think it's something with the looping, huh? The way it's
Um,
extracting, adding. I
Let
don't
me
know.
think. No, with the loop, we're just applying the sum formula. So if there would be like odd results, the process should be looked at. So the process that we have here is addition. Now I'm thinking, why do we have the 0.0001? Let me see. This is a very small value. Hmm.
Because even when you just extracted the I without the running total, it still gave you that. Or see right there. Well, it just listed the prices with the final total. It's still there. That's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually weird to have that 0.001. And I'm thinking, um, we can easily remove that actually. We can round up the result. Um, we can apply a round function here to remove that and specify the number of spaces. But I'm thinking of the answer to your question. Why do we have that 0.0001 in there? Let me think.
John has an idea.
John,
He's
do you have
typing.
any idea? Um, yeah, it could be. It could be that.
Because
Um,
some numbers in programming languages treats numbers and different letters as binary combinations. And there are different precision in the binary combinations. And some numbers are not not easily represented as binaries. That's why there are levels of precision. And what I searched on the internet is this is
hmm,
one of the issues regarding the precision, the levels of precisions when converting numbers into binaries.
um,
Like there is a small error that presents
but
like
the, but
point zero
but this
zero one.
error is very negligible. I mean,
Yes, yes,
a value with like 15
insignificant.
zeros before it, it is very insignificant. So each, well, it should be, that could be the only explanation. It's how the system actually stores the value. I think that's the only potential source of that 0.001.
I also
But
tried it in a scientific calculator, sir, and it gives us
it
8.69.
also it also gave the 0.001. So
No,
yeah,
no, sir. 8.69 only.
only 8.69.
Yes.
Yeah, but if you would, compare the computation with this at 8.69 only, it would give you like that almost same answer. So this value is very small. It won't really affect your calculation. So yeah, I think John is right. The only source of that 0.001 is from how the system is actually um, um, assigning values to um, to numbers here. And yeah, but in our codes, when we focus on our codes, we did not explicitly do we did not explicitly do anything that would result to that. So it's a system based thing. I can remember something about floating point numbers. I can just totally recall the actual detail of that, but there's something about that that floating point number. Um, Let me see how floating point numbers. I think this is the reason for that. So, Oh, not really. So anyway, any questions with how we did this, guys? Any questions? Any clarifications about this? So yeah, this is just something that we would be seeing more and more, especially with the loops, because this is one way of updating our values through the sum. You can also update your values like using other functions like divide, division, multiplication, but of course it depends on what you want to accomplish. So in this particular example, what we want to accomplish is to get the total. So that's why we use the sum. So it's a context specific thing. Okay. And yep. Any questions before I proceed? Okay. Let me see. Let me go back to the slides. So this is how I did it before. Um, so I added a bit of detail here. Yeah, you can, I forgot to do that. You can actually remove the spaces, right, in between. But since I have here the name, so I don't want to remove this the separator in between um, the dollar and the product. That's why I did not use the separator there. Um, and here, the reason why I only listed the values is because, yeah, the problem doesn't actually want you to display the actual product name. But for completeness, that's what we did with um, the one earlier. Any questions with this? And this is, um, of course, how you would be rounding it off. So the
Sorry.
round function. Yep, Grace.
Can you go over your first print line in there in your for in?
Hmm.
I
So
don't know if I
yeah,
understand that because
which
it's like
part?
nothing. Your first print statement within your
Hmm.
for in, it says print dollar sign price
Okay.
separator. Can you
Um,
break that down a little bit more? Because
which one
you're
here?
not
I can go over everything. So then you can interrupt me anytime to like
okay.
focus
Yeah,
on certain aspect. Yeah. So
go ahead.
yep,
Because you don't have
let's
a
do it.
variable in there that you're
Hmm.
saying print and stuff, so I'm confused by that.
Okay, okay. Yep. Um, here, so we initialized by doing the step one that we did a while ago. We created the dictionary. We listed down the products and their corresponding prices. And then we initialized the grocery bill because we did this so that we have a place to store the running total, right? And then we created the loop. Since we just want to iterate over the values, that's why we used for price. Again, the iterator could be any name, any letter. So in grocery underscore dict dot values, so it will just go through each of the values that we have. Okay. And then we are printing here the dollar sign, the price. So the price is just the values that we have. And then the separator would be none. So I don't have any space in between the dollar sign and the prices. So for the first iterator, it would go over um, this first value, 0.15, add it to grocery bill, which is 0. That's why you have 0.15. Okay, so what we have in here next is, yeah, the updating of the value, which is just, yeah, you just added the values from the dictionary to the current value of the grocery bill variable. So that's something that we already know. Now, the loop will not proceed to this print until it finishes up until 3.99. Why? Because notice these two prints are actually outside the loops. So until the time that you go over each of the elements of the sequence, that's the only time that it would proceed to this. Now, we'll do the same process for the cheese. However, this time, grocery bill is not equal to 0.15 in the system's memory, right? It's not, it's now 0.15, not 0. So at this point, it would update, okay, 455 plus 0.15. We're not showing it here because we did not explicitly wrote that we want it to be shown. Okay, so it's not showing the thing. And lastly, we do the same process for 3.99, update it with the current value, which is now 4.7. So 3.99 plus 4.7. So now we have the last item in our loop. We will now proceed to the print. Now to the print, I think this one is not yet complete. Let's see. My bad. I think this output is not dated, right, John? I think it lacks. Let me see. Can you give a screenshot in the chat box? Because this print right here is not showing. I think I think that's the reason why Grace is confused. It's not showing anything like that, and it's in there. So let's write it. Yeah,
That wasn't why. I see what it was. It was I it's so simple,
yeah.
it's so small, but I'm so used to a single letter variable, but you use price as a variable. That's
That's
how I got mixed up.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. This price right here again.
Is our X.
Um,
Yeah. And I was like, where are
it's
you getting
it's
price
X,
on
it's I. It could
thing
be any
existing?
name.
Okay.
Yeah, I just use price here because what I was thinking is I don't want it to get confused in a sense that if we say price here, we're automatically referring to this values right here. But yeah, it's just I, it's just X. It's just any other letter. Okay.
But then there was one thing you said that did get me confused because I think it's just still not sinking in. But that second line within your four, grocery
Mm-hmm.
bill plus price, you said this isn't coded in a way where it's going to give me a running total. But then how would it look like if it was again? You'd have to do the like a two variable thing where like because in the last
Not really.
example it was plus J.
Not really. The reason why I did the two variable thing is to show the key or the product names.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you just
So this
want to
one's
print,
just the price.
yeah, if you just want to print the running total, what you have to do is to print this grocery bill value at the end and put it inside the for loop. So
And
this part
grocery
right
bill.
here, yeah, this part right here gives the running total.
The grocery bill. Okay.
Yeah. So going back here, this actually won't give us a running total. Why? Notice that we are not really printing grocery bill in any part here, aside from the final line, of which I failed to include at the bottom. I think it was cropped or something. So with respect to your question, um, yeah, this thing would update the price of the grocery bill or the total, the running total, but it would not show it until the time that the for loop is completed and goes over the line here. Okay, the sprint that we have at the bottom. So that's what happened here. And yeah, it's better that you see the entirety, right? I need to do that so that it clarifies everything. So let's invest some time doing just that. Oh, I clicked this one. I mean, it's already embedded in the system. Don't you see this when you click like add new cell? There's no options such as this, guys.
On my answer, I have that.
Uh, do you have the plugin, the ChatGPT plugin? No.
The text only, but not the button at the middle.
Yeah, the button came from the plugin that I have in my browser. I have a couple of AIs in my browser. One checking all the things that I type. One is for ChatGPT. I also have Monica in here. So it could be that everyone has this option, and yeah, I only have this because of um the plugin. Anyway, so let's try to replicate the result from the slides. So we write for price in grocery. it's just it's just awesome how this AI um identifies the and you can learn how AI actually does that in the advanced section. That is called NLP,
So,
or natural language
Jeff,
processing.
which plugin is it that let you put ChatGPT in there?
Let me see my plugins here. Um, ChatGPT for Google Colab.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Because actually have a 4.0 membership that I pay for. So I wonder if that could
Yeah, yeah,
access
yeah.
like the.
You
So you
have
can actually
Google,
access the 4.0 too, right?
I have free access for the
Okay. So, but for this
paid
version, you can
version.
also select. Can you select the version of the ChatGPT?
I think it's using the current one. I think
Oh, okay,
it's
cool, cool.
yeah. I think you can also use the paid version here. Like for example, you have a subscription. Yeah, you
Yeah,
can do that.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's very useful. I mean, it makes you work really fast if you want to accomplish things very quickly.
Yeah, I actually feel like in the future, it's lot about like
Knowing how to use it.
how to ask questions. You will be a bunch of I think they're already having these jobs called like prompt
Prompt,
engineer,
yeah, prompt engineering. Yeah.
and other people. And there's a comedian who would basically said,
Well,
it's the ask question guy.
yes. And the salary is good. I mean, I'm also tempted to jump into that, but I think there's an ongoing bubble in the AI industry. I mean,
Bubble.
salaries are crazy and investments are crazy. So it's easy to spot a bubble once you have that craze with something. So
Huh.
let
Okay.
me think. Yeah, I think this would work. Hmm. There's even this fixed error. Let's try this fixed error option. Um. Yeah. I mean, if you're too tired to debug, then let's just allow the AI to do it. So there we go. Now, with Grace's question earlier, how can we make it in a way that it would give the running total? It's easy to do it. Just include a print function. There we go. I mean, um, the AI actually gave the answer. That's extremely and scary at the same time. Extremely awesome.
Now you
But
have to have test questions that are outside the ChatGPT's assumptions.
and Grace, that's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
That's a challenge for teachers. Although, um, well, it's a different thing for you because you're here because you want to learn. As compared to university students, most of them they are there just to get the diploma or something. But look at this. I mean, before, to be honest with you, before you just you have to open the ChatGPT to your browser and type the code in there and do the debugging. But now it's already incorporated in Colab. So it makes things really easy. But there are disadvantages as well because there's a tendency that you'll be relying too much to it, and you will not really pay attention and really invest your time understanding things. That's why I always want to emphasize understanding. Because if you love using AI, cool, so be it. But you know how things work, right? You have the
Yeah, I
confidence
think
to say,
knowing how to
yeah,
work, I think knowing how it works first and then use ChatGPT is
yes,
really good because I think what happened is that like ChatGPT actually does explanations for you, and then you could actually just look at the answer it gives you, and you understand it makes
mm,
sense. So that's
yes,
like the I think it's the best thing. It's in combination of learning the how things work first.
yeah. In fact, you can actually use that
Oh,
to explain. Like for example, I don't understand Jeff, and oh no, don't do it to me. Failed to load response. Okay.
And
For
and,
some
and, and
reasons
it's
that's
it's
okay.
crazy that how like it's I had my ChatGPT being very sarcastic when I had said that to
Mm,
him, and it's crazy. It actually does sarcasm like everything.
yeah.
but you know, it's funny because with automation, like even with like a pocket calculator,
Mm,
in education, it was like, well, now students aren't going to learn how to do arithmetic. But it's like, still at the end of the day, the calculator can only do functions that it's being told by the
by the
operator.
human. Yeah, yeah.
And so, like, even with AI, there's still some of that to an effect of like, it may predict what you want next or what's supposed to be next, but if
Mm,
there's no understanding or the application is running short because you don't understand why it did it, then the use of it can only go so far.
yeah, I agree.
I think we have
And
to remember that too, and then it means like updating how how and
mm,
whys of education as AI comes on.
and, and yeah, Hasiba says AI will make everyone lazy. I think AI will force education to evolve. I mean, we're still
Exactly.
using
It will
the
evolve. The question will be different than just how do we do
yes,
it? It will become how else can we do this and why do we do this and what are other solutions rather than
exactly.
classroom. Yeah.
Even other software like Turnitin and other plagiarism detector, they're failing because AI keeps getting better and better every day, and the more people that uses it, the more better it gets. So yeah, totally. I think the people behind AI they are really they have seen this. They have seen that AI will be a disruptor. Um, However, I have this comparison, guys. I want you to think about it carefully. During the Renaissance, if you observe, if you observe the architecture, if you observe the outputs done during renaissance and you compare it to what we have now, which do you think holds more value and, in a sense, more elegant and beautiful? I think there's a high risk that humans would lose their ability to do those kinds of things, like creating those art pieces in that you would see in Europe. I think slowly we would be losing that if we totally rely to technology. And that is the same thing as with AI and even with coding. If you totally rely to AI, and most people would definitely do that just to get just to pass by and finish the task, we would lose the ability, and that's scary because we are putting so much we're having so much dependence with technology that one catastrophe would probably destroy um, a significant portion of what we're working. So maybe in the future there will be no coders. It's just like Tony Stark telling Jarvis, solve for this. So that's where the importance of
Definitely,
generating ideas. Yeah.
and I think with a possibly a lowered production in terms of human production, it
Yes.
makes
Yeah.
people, it turns them into what? Like you either sit and twiddle your thumbs, or like you become some kind of philosophizer of, okay, well,
Yeah.
computers can do that, AI can do that. Then that becomes like, what do we tell AI to do? So it becomes, how do we define a goal and what is our goal? Right? We
Yeah.
become philosophers, and then it's like at that point, I think it could potentially, it makes the turn towards the humanities, the philosophizing, so that we train people how to think and ask questions like that, rather
It's
than just
difficult.
AKA how to code.
Yeah, it's
So what if it actually
grace.
turns into a different kind of renaissance?
Yes, that could be a Renaissance
Like
2.0,
the
but
laziness is a physical laziness, but
yeah,
we're going to
it's
access the
more
different
more
kinds
about
of questions.
thinking,
Yeah.
of thinking. So that's actually one of the basis for universal, how do you call that? Universal salary? No, 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 not salary. It's not the term that they
Yeah, yeah,
use.
universal basic income.
Basic income, yeah. That's one of
Yeah,
the like ideas that
that's true. Yeah.
one point in the future AI would be able to do most of the things that we're doing. And yeah, you're right. I think there could be a Renaissance 2.0. It's more about yeah, thinking about how we think. Um, More philosophical in a sense. And probably it could happen in a very near future. I mean, population is declining. If you look at every country, even the developing countries, you might be surprised. In Thailand, they have like 0. They have declining birth rate, so they can't reach the replacement of value of 3. China is also declining in terms of population. It's funny to think that economic uh, economic factors are the best. How do you call this? Birth control, like having very expensive prices of diapers, rents. It forces, although it's sad to realize that it forces people to rethink if they would be wanting a child. So it's good for current but in the future it would be disastrous. Imagine no one would be able to support the benefits for the elderly, for the retirees. no one will be able to keep um, the economic activity because there will be less people to work. So anyway, that is a deep discussion, typically raised during college and graduate lectures. So it's nice that we are able to talk about these things. So going back here, um, yeah, I was just amazed that I don't know what I clicked that showed that, but I was surprised. It was not present like a year ago or maybe a few months ago. Before the practice is you want to do something, go to Stack Overflow. And I've just seen this statistic that the visitors in Stack Overflow dramatically decreased after the AI was ChatGPT was released. So people are really into AI instead of, well, we're just lazy. We don't want to search for or um or wait for people to answer our questions. So yep, I think we can call it a day. And at least for the lecture, you still have practices with John. Um, so I hope the lecture was clear. Every part